Ginzu Value Investing. Onegai shimasu.
Okay, welcome back to the channel. In this second video on the Toolkit series, we're going to have a look at a company financials and do an analysis on a selected stock. So in more detail, we are going to select one company out of the set of companies that we screened for in the previous video. We're going to look at the financials of that company and kind of analyze it against its peers. And last but not least, we're going to see how the business has been performing in the last 10 years. So let's jump into it. Okay, so in the last video, I showed you how I use Finviz to screen for the stocks, and I also showed you how to set the variables to look for value stocks, good businesses. I also showed you how you can actually copy this into a spreadsheet, and I have a spreadsheet which I keep, and I divide the spreadsheets in several sectors, and then I copy the results from the screening onto this spreadsheet, okay, onto this spreadsheet, and kind of color based on the average of these sets. And as I said in the previous video, it kind of gives me a very quick cue on which companies I want to look for in I want to analyze in more detail. So yeah, so the next thing is to just pick a stock. Okay, so you can pick a stock from any sector that you feel comfortable, that you have more knowledge about, or that you're particularly interested in. In my case, I like the technology sector, the industrial sector, and utilities. That's the three main sectors that I usually look for good value stocks. Can't find them always, but I do try. And in just for our own example, we're going to use the first of the list in the technology sector. So Intel Corporation. Most of us are aware of Intel. If we've been used to using Intel processors in most of our laptops and desktops. So I'm gonna use Intel as an example of the analysis and the financial analysis that I do for a stock. Okay, so one site that I use to get most of my financial information is Morningstar. Now there's a lot of sites around. You can use the Financial Times. You can even use Finviz for some information on Intel. However, I found that Morningstar gives me the information in the formats that I actually need and use. Okay, so let's just have a look at what kind of information Morningstar gives you. Again, you don't need to subscribe to Morningstar. They do offer professional subscription, and if you do subscribe, then you get some additional information that all of us that haven't subscribed, not for the professional subscription, wouldn't get. So things like analysts' analysis, you can get to more extended data over 10 years. I personally don't think I need it at the moment. In the future, if I want to get access to more information, then yeah, absolutely. I think that Morningstar is a really good website, provides a lot of value. For the time being, assuming that we stick with the non-premium subscription, then we can look in the quote section for information on Intel. Okay, so it gives you a lot of information. It gives you the current price. It gives you some ratios here, forward PE ratios, price to sales, price to book, and then in the key ratios, you get return on equity, return on assets, net margins, trailing 12 months, and so forth and so on. The portion of the website that I use the most, it's under here, this option here, full key ratios, and when you click that, you get access to pretty much all the information on historical information on the financial performance of Intel. Okay, so one good thing about Morningstar is that you can decide if you want to see this from the older dates to the new dates or the other way around. I prefer to have the latest financial data on the left hand side. Okay, this pretty much gives you a lot of most of what I will use to analyze my stock. So I get the revenues over the last 10 years, I get the operation margins, I get the operation income, I get the net income, I get dividends, shares, book values, operating cash flows, free cash flows, etc., etc. Okay, if I need more information, and I will need more information as we go along, I can click on the financial tab, and then I'll have access to the last 5 years of the balance sheet, income statement, balance sheet, and the cash flow, right? So really good tool. So here's one example of the of what you would get if you want to subscribe for the premium account with Morningstar. You get the 10 years of the full statement. Okay, unsubscribed or without the premium subscription, you get the last 5s. If you want access to the 10 years, then you need to subscribe to the premium version of the website. Okay, so let's go back to key ratios. So as I said before, pretty much all the information that I'll be using to analyze Intel are going to come from here. Okay, so what I usually do is that I copy a lot of this information into my own spreadsheet. Okay, I have one spreadsheet per stock. Okay, and I kind of replicate this data in these spreadsheets, and kind of allows me to do also some additional ratios which are not in the Morningstar websites. All right, so how do I copy this? So again, Morningstar, really useful. They have an export option here. If you click here, everything within this page will get exported to an Excel file. Okay, right, and then once I open the Excel file, then I can pretty much copy the data straight from the Excel file to my own spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet here. Okay, all right, so once I get all the information from the Morningstar, I'll pretty much end up with something like this. Okay. One other thing that I do is I kind of compare my stock, or in this case Intel, with their competition. Okay, so again, Morningstar gives you the kind of top 3, top 4 competitors of Intel. As you will see, most of them we will know by name. That will be AMD, that will be NVIDIA, X-Link, and so forth and so on. You can also go to the Intel annual reports, and there will be a section there where they mention the competition. So in my case, I wanted to compare with some additional companies. So I have AMD, NVIDIA, X-Link. I have TSM, Taiwan Semiconductors. I have LSCC and MU, right? And I take all this information that you've seen from the from Morningstar. Okay, so I go one by one to each competitor. Okay, and I copy this information provided by Morningstar. Okay, I copy all this, the key ratios, the most of the key ratios, the debt to equity, and so forth and so on, and I start putting them here against my company that I want to evaluate, but also its competitors. Okay, so it kind of gives you a really good overview of how your company, in this case Intel, is performing against their competitors. Okay, so you can see here, for example, that AMD has twice the return on equity that Intel has. Also a higher return on assets. It has slightly lower net margins, as well as lower operating margins, but it has higher revenue over the last 3 years. Okay, you can also see that the debt to equity of AMD it's lower than Intel, and I do this for every other stock in this list here. Kind of gives me an idea on how how's the industry. In this case, that's the semiconductor industry, and how each company compares between each other, but more specifically with Intel. Okay. Going back to the performance tab, so just to step back a little bit and kind of give a summary of what I do. I export this information to Excel, and then I copy to this spreadsheet here, this sheet that I call performance. As you can see here, I have the revenue from operations, the growth profit from Intel, operation profits, some other numbers here in between, net earnings to shareholders. Those are the main ones that I use. And then I kind of compile based on the figures, I kind of compile the revenue year on year. I can see how the growth in revenue evolved over time, how the growth profit margin evolved over time, and how the operating margin, and so forth and so on. Okay. And towards the bottom, I also have some metrics that kind of give me the ratio of operating cash flow to revenue and free cash flow to operation cash flow. And you will see in the next video how I use that to do a evaluation of the company. Okay, I also have the book value per share, the earnings per share, the dividends per share. So again, all this information, most of it comes from the Morningstar website, and some of these rows are just calculations based on that data, on that financial data. Now, this is very, very useful. I really like having visual cues to kind of notice patterns and how things are evolving. So what I've created based on this data for this stock is a series of graphics that you can see here. Let me just move them to this location here. And this is basically, graphs from revenues from the financial statements, right? From the income statements, and it kind of gives you an overview of what is happening with the company in the last 10 years. As you can see, for Intel, their revenues more or less have been growing over the last 10 years, okay? As well as the growth profit. So the gap between revenues and gross profit is steady. It means that the cost of sales is not increasing massively with the increase of revenues, and also you can see here the operating profit and the net earnings per share, which again also, as you can see over time, they have been going up. So this is good. This shows me a growing business, right? Even though Intel, it's a mature company, it's been in the market for many, many years, and there's new kids on the block that wants to disrupt this market. Still, it shows year on year, growth in their revenue, growth in their net earnings. So really good to see this, right? This is the kind of company that I'm looking for, right? Stable companies that actually, keep on giving. They keep on producing good growth year on year. Okay. So the next graphic here has to do with cash flow. Right? This is a graphic that I also use to kind of give me a visual clue on how the cash flows, the free cash flow, the cash flow from operation is evolving over time. And also, same thing here. As you can see, a little bit of flat cash flow from operations between 2011 and 2016, but after that, very good increase in cash flow from operations, and kind of that of course reflected itself in the free cash flow, right? Capital expenditures pretty much also kind of stable across the board, slightly higher now. In 2018, 2019, Intel has been doing some investments in order to release their new architecture. I think it can't remember the name now, but they're coming up with the new processors now. We'll look into that in the next video when we start to kind of do a validation of the company. We'll have the opportunity to jump into the Intel annual reports and actually look at what they are doing in terms of technology. And then the last graphic here kind of shows me the evolution of their book value, their earnings per share, and also their dividends over time. And I mean, it can't really get much better than this. The book value of the company have been growing in the last 10 years at a significant pace, right? This is what you want to see in a company. They have been increasing the value to the shareholders in the last 10 years. Earnings per shares also, a little bit flat here in the last in the 2011 to 2017, but also again in the last 3-4 years also growing. Okay, and in terms of dividends, I mean, a very, very stable dividend, right? Slightly increasing over time. This is what I want to see also in a company. If a company does pay dividend, I want the dividend to be, constant over time. Okay, I don't like companies that pay too much in dividend or too less in dividend, that have irregular dividend payments. That doesn't give me any sort of reassurance. Intel doesn't do that. They are increasing their dividends over time, but also their book value and their earnings per share are increasing. But it's something that they can definitely pay, and it's good to see that in a company. Okay, so overall, looking at the financials and not knowing too much about the company, not doing the due diligences to kind of look into the nitty-gritty of what they're doing now. Nevertheless, the numbers look good. I mean, this is a company that I definitely want to keep on researching and doing a deeper analysis on how the company is being operated. But definitely the numbers look great. If all goes well, and if the valuation and the validation goes well, definitely this is a company that I would be more than happy to invest. Okay, I think that's all for today in terms of financials and analysis. Thank you very much. So thank you for watching the video. This is the second video of a series of 6 videos on my toolkit about value investing. In the previous video, I showed you how I screen for value stocks. And in this video, we had a look at the company financials and did an analysis on one of the selected companies. In the next video, I'll do a business validation. But for now, thank you very much. If this is the type of content that you like to see, give me a thumbs up. That will tell me that there's people out there that are interested in this sort of information, and I'll keep on doing these videos if that's the case. Also, click the subscribe button and the bell icon if you want to be notified of the upcoming videos on this series. Okay, thank you very much. See you out there, and stay safe.
Ginzu Value Investing. Arigato gozaimashita.